Hello everyone, JohnJugger12 back here again with another video, and today I bring you once again a top 5. Yes, it's been a while since my last top 5. If I'm not mistaken, it was my Dragon Ball GT Pros. I did a little segment taking a break off TV stuff and decided to do some Dragon Ball GT stuff, and I gave you the good, the bad, and the ugly, if you will, of Dragon Ball GT, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. And you know what? This has been a long time coming. You know, I've been doing Dragon Ball Z segments on my top 5 segment, if you will, for a long time now. And you know what? It's as fun as it's been. It's time to like finally finish it off. You know, like because you know my segments, particularly my Dragon Ball Z segments, are like it's time to weasel them out. You know, because I do have the podcast going and I'm working on a Dragon Ball podcast, you know, so with the Dragon Ball podcast, it's kind of unnecessary to continuously do segments that are for Dragon Ball solely. So I'm going to be ending the top 5 Dragon Ball Z top 5s for good, but with but in a big way, which of course is my top 5 Dragon Ball fights. Yes, Dragon Ball is known for a lot of things. It's known for its action, it's known for its adventure, it's known for its romance, its comedy, its science fiction, its fantasy. It's known for all these things, but you know what? The number one thing that Dragon Ball will always be known for is its fighting. The fights, the battles that the characters have is amazing. And to do this justice, I decided to do my top 5 of everything in the Dragon Ball universe. My top 5 Dragon Ball GT fights, Dragon Ball Z movie fights, Dragon Ball fights, and I'm going to end it with the creme de la creme of top 5 Dragon Ball Z fights. So I hope you guys are up for listening to these things. So let's get right down to it. Today I'm going to be doing my top 5 Dragon Ball Z movies. So I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get right down to it. But before I start the list, I need to make it perfectly clear that everybody knows that this top 5 is subjective. It's my personal thoughts. It's my list of my favorite fights in the Dragon Ball Z movie franchises. And you know what? Not everybody's going to agree, so in the comment section below, please give me your list of top 5 DBZ movies, or just general, your top 5 top fights in general in the movies. And of course, I'm not going to be including any of the OVAs or specials or the Dragon Ball movies, specifically just the Dragon Ball Z movie fights, you know, because if I included all of them, then it would just take forever and ever to like weasel them out, you know. So let's just get right down to it. Coming up at number 5 has to go to the Tree of Might, Goku and the Z Warriors versus Turles and Turles' gang. I love the battle that happens in there because Tree of Might, as you all know, is one of my favorite DBZ movies, but it also has one of the best fights, and I always loved Tree of Might. I always considered it to be a very underrated DBZ movie, you know? You know, like either everybody likes Broly or everybody likes, you know, Battle of Gods, but nobody really likes to give credit to the older ones, and I like the older ones, especially Tree of Might, and the reason why is because it has some of the best fighting and action sequences in it. You know, you have Goku, like, putting out all the stops, you know, fighting multiple people, you know, you have the Z Warriors actually doing some, you know, actual badass action sequences and stuff. It's all really badass and cool, and one of the big things that really annoyed me with DBZ has to be the fact that, you know, you always had the characters, specifically Goku or whoever the hell, fighting other villains one by one, and this happens a lot, and you know what, I can understand why. You know, it's, you know, just to, you know, spare time and, you know, get into the shit. I can understand. Yeah, you know, you do one by one just for the sake of it. But the thing that I liked about the movies is that you had all these characters and all these villains face off against each other at once, and I love that type of shit. That's the way things should be. And the sequence between Turles and Goku and Gohan and Turles and, you know, the Z Warriors versus, you know, Turles' gang, all of it's really, truly fucking awesome and badass. But let's move off of that and go to number 4, which has to go to Lord Slug. Goku versus, obviously, Lord Slug is a real badass fight and one of my personal favorites. I think one of the main reasons as to why I like it so much is because it was I just like the false Super Saiyan transformation sequence, and I like the despair of that movie because when you watch that movie, Goku has no way of beating Lord Slug by any stretch of the imagination. He had no chance from beginning to end, and I love the fact that you had that type of element in the movie, and of course, you have this really awesome sequence that it's one of my personal favorites where Lord Slug's obviously coming at Goku, and he's obviously not even close to being done. Goku's just, beat the shit. He's done. He's exhausted. He has no more energy. And then he just goes in right for the kill, and bam, Goku catches the punch and just transforms into the false Super Saiyan transformation. And I don't know, that sequence alone always got to me. I just loved that moment. But let's move off of that and go to my number 3 pick, which has to go to the return of Cooler, Goku, Super Saiyan Goku, and Super Saiyan Vegeta versus the Metacoolers. I think that the entire sequence in the movie is just phenomenal. It's just so badass. And I actually picked this sequence over Cooler's Revenge, mostly based on the fact that as much as I like the fight between Goku and Cooler in the first movie, I think the sequel is a lot superior in terms of like Goku actually being able to use his Super Saiyan transformation. I mean, like, even though I liked the fighting in the first one and their whole situation together was so badass, I just can never get into the moment where it's like, really? Goku, you could have beat him at any time. You could have beat him at any point in the fight, but you just waited last minute to transform into a Super Saiyan. Now, granted, he was not fully capable of using it. Obviously, you can debate that, but at the end of the day, Goku had the ability to transform into a Super Saiyan and defeat Cooler right in his tracks, and he didn't. And I guess that's the only reason I really didn't put it on my list. But it's still a great fight. But I truly would prefer the sequel better because the whole sequence between Goku and Vegeta transforming into Super Saiyans and then working together, beating up Metacooler, and Metacooler I just always liked more. He just looked cooler and ironically, and just had a much more badass style of fighting, and obviously his abilities were awesome. He had the ability to duplicate himself, the ability to regenerate his body, and all that type of shit. All the entire fight sequence is just bliss. It's just amazing. Every single fight from beginning to end is amazing, and I love it. It's my personal favorite, and I love that moment where the army of Metacoolers is just coming out right out of the fucking mountains just to attack them, and just Goku and Vegeta just power up and you just yell out into space like, fuck, it's fucking over, and then just explosions everywhere. I don't know, I personally love it. It's badass. One of my personal favorite fights of all time. But moving off of that, let's get right down to number 2. Yes, this almost made my first one, but you know what? I had to give it up to push it down to 2, which has to be Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan, Broly versus the Z Warriors. The entire movie obviously is amazing. I can see why a lot of people love it. A lot of people like to consider Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan, the best DBZ movie of all time. And you know what? I can give it to that. Obviously, I like other ones, like Tree of Might and Dead Zone and Battle of Gods and Wrath of the Dragon and stuff like that. I do like those movies too, but I can see why people would consider Broly the best of the movies. And it's probably because of this reason alone. The fight sequences are just phenomenal. The abilities alone are just so awesome. The fact that you have this character Broly, who's just this unstoppable beast, who can just take it all, and not even feel like anything's happening. It's just so badass. You have Goku going right at him, you have Piccolo going right at him, Gohan, Vegeta, Trunks, no fucking effect on him, and you have Goku just shooting out Kamehamehas right in his face. Just the mirage of attacks that they pushed at this guy and not working at all just goes to, you have to give it up to them, and give it up to Broly. The entire fight sequence is just badass. The fighting is amazing. The cinematics are amazing. Everything about it is awesome, and I can see why it would be considered the best movie because of that reason alone. But the reason why this actually didn't end up in my number one pick is because of the ending. As much as I like Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan, I always felt the ending felt a little too. I wouldn't say climactic, but I don't know. Like it just felt a little too soon to ending, you know. And this is obviously at the point where every movie had to end with a big transformation and then like one attack and then boom, it's done. You know, like classic point, uh, Fusion Reborn, where you see Gogeta for like 5 seconds and then bam, you know, he gets, you know, you punch him, he punches him once, and then bam, it's done. You know, it's kind of like, really? I mean, Goku, he finally gets his ability back, he gets powered up, he's going right at Broly, and then just one attack, and then boom, it's all done. I mean, like, granted, you know, there's a fucking asteroid coming down, like, exploding the planet simultaneously, so you have to get the fuck out of there, but, I don't know, I would have liked there to be a little bit more time. But nonetheless, Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan is definitely one of the best fight sequences in the DBZ movies, and you know what? Let's give out some honorable mentions right before I give you my number one pick. Let's get right down to it. Honorable mentions. The specials. I really like the Bardock fight between, you know, all the general characters that he fights. I just think like Bardock had a really interesting way of fighting in comparison to other Z Warriors and, you know, fighters in the DBZ universe. I just like that. And let's see. The history of Trunks. I also liked Super Saiyan Trunks versus the androids, and I also really liked Super Saiyan Gohan versus the androids. That was also pretty boss. Fusion Reborn Goku, Super Saiyan 3 Goku versus Super Janemba. I also really liked. The Z Warriors versus Hirudegan was also badass. Goku and Piccolo teaming up to face over Garlic Jr. was pretty badass. I really liked it. Let's see, what else? Return of Cooler. I mean, Cooler's Revenge. Also, I mean, even though I prefer the sequel, I liked the fight between Cooler and Goku. I think it was pretty badass. And the OVAs. I can't really speak on the OVAs. I never really believed the OVAs had the best fight sequences, but nonetheless, it was pretty decent. But nothing really that amazing. But anyways, off the honorable mentions, let's get right down to my number one pick and end this once and for all. My number one pick for the top creme de la creme of all fight sequences in all the DBZ movies has to go to Battle of Gods, Super Saiyan God Goku versus Lord Beerus. I fucking love that sequence. I mean, like, the animation's great, the cinematics great, everything about it is just awesome. It's just taking good money and just putting in, like, what the fight sequences in Dragon Ball should be, you know, these real godlike, you know, fight sequences and aerial attacks and it goes on and on and on. The fight sequence is just so badass. They fight underwater, they're fighting underground, they're fighting in the city, they're fighting in the sky, in the mountains, in space. The entire timeline of the fight that they have is so fucking boss. And even though Beerus is of course stronger than Goku in his god form, unfortunately, I still believe it was a great fight. And you know what? Maybe if you gave Goku a little bit more training, but he would have been right up there to, like, defeat Beerus, I think. You know, I mean, like, he just needed a little bit more of a spike, a little bit more of an edge, and then I believe he would have had him at the end. But you know what? The sequence alone is still badass. And even though Goku's not the victor in that fight, it's still good to know that, you know, the fight alone meant more than just what the outcome was, and I really like that. And you really get the feeling of, like, what Goku's really all about, what Beerus is really all about, and I just love the entire sequence they have together, the dialogue they share together, and of course the entire, like, sequence they have up in Earth's atmosphere is just really badass. But you know what? That's gonna be it. I'm gonna end it right here. I really have been rambling far too long. I truly hope everyone enjoyed this top 5. And you know what? I'm really working hard on this DBZ podcast. I still haven't come up with a name. I think I might call it Kaoken something. I don't know. I really want to call it Kaoken for some reason. But I don't know. I get the feeling someone has that as their own podcast for some reason. I don't know. I'm trying not to sound too cliche here, folks, but I am working on my DBZ podcast, and on other notes on DBZ stuff, I'm closing on the chapter of making a Dragon Ball live action franchise segment. I'm going to be ending that pretty soon. Not really soon, but it's going to be coming up. Also, the top 5s. Next week, I hope you guys enjoy my top 5 Dragon Ball GT fights. I hope you also enjoy, after that, my top 5 Dragon Ball fights, and then I'm going to be ending it with top 5 Dragon Ball Z fights. And I hope you all enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoyed this. And of course, in the comment section below, please give me your top 5 DBZ movie fights. Your favorites, your worst, the best, all that great shit. Please, in the comment section, tell me. And of course, if you have not subscribed to my channel already, please subscribe, because I do tons of videos, podcasts, rants, reviews, just various content on everything that has to do with comic books, anime, and just general movies and stuff like that. I hope you guys enjoyed that stuff too. And of course, check out my Twitter. It's somewhere in here. It's on my homepage. Please check it out. Please go see that, and then you'll be updated with stuff that's going to be coming out. So please check that out. And that's going to be it. I hope everybody enjoyed this top 5, and be here next week for the next top 5. That's going to be it. I've been John 12.